Come be a part of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics with your host, Dr. Ed Holliday. Hear the voices of liberty speaking all across America. Doc Holliday provides thought-provoking interviews and commentary about the issues and actions that are afflicting this country and what we need to do to get America back on track. Get fired up, get inspired, get on board with Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right now.
And here we go.
And that's the sound of rock cracking right here in 2019. Can you believe it's here? Well, it is. And you've got Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics ready for year 2019. And you're listening to us right here on webtalkradio.net. That's webtalkradio.net. And boy, we're glad to have you listening to us around the country. We get comments from everyone. And I just have to tell you, 2018, we had more rock-splitting politics, things you just wouldn't believe. And a lot of it happened because who is in the White House? And now, can we expect anything different from 2019? Well, we got some bold, shift-shaking predictions. Bold prediction, 2019, shift-shaking America. That's what we think that some things are happening. We're going to announce some things on this show that we're going to do, some special shows. I mentioned at the end of last year after the elections, we got a show about why we need to end racism, how to do it immediately. We got Doc Holliday's health care plan for all. It's fair health care for all. And we hope to get that out. We've refined it and redoing it, making it something that would be able to pass Democrats and Republicans. It'd be for the American people, not a political party. So that we're going to build on what we put together using the blockchain technology that's now out there. Wasn't available when Obamacare and everything first came up. So we got new technology we can use to make things better, simpler, and help increase and build up the relationship between the patient and the doctor and keep government bureaucracy and insurance companies out of the healthcare decisions. That's what Doc Holliday wants to see, and that's what my healthcare plan will do. We got an immigration reform package plan I'd like to put out there, unlike any you've ever seen or heard before. And we'll have a special show on that coming up hopefully soon in the new year. But we got so many things going on, as well as keeping up what's going on in D.C., which as we speak, as I'm doing the show, taping the show, they still have a government shutdown. Not the whole government, but enough for people are starting to hurt after a couple of weeks of a shutdown. And if you're a young family, you got a mortgage payment to make and car payments, and all of a sudden you're not getting a check if you work for the federal government in a lot of places around Washington, D.C., around the country. People think it's just Washington, D.C. We got national parks, we got national parkways, we got all kind of federal employees who are not getting a paycheck now because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer cannot figure out how to make a deal with Donald Trump without Donald Trump looking good, evidently. They think it's more about politics than the American people. But we'll see what happens, and hopefully something will break through that frozen stiffness that Democrats seem to have soon. I hope they will. One of the things I got to before we get deep in this show, let me just tell you about Ronald Reagan. And there's so many ways that they're trying to put Trump and Richard Nixon together, and that's just totally wrong. Will he have a heap of trouble from the Democrats? You betcha. It's coming from the House. They're going to be investigating everybody, probably even the people who mowed the lawn and everything else at the White House. But as they get all that information together, I think some Democrats are really begging for a recession. They want America to hurt because of who our president is. But one thing I was going to tell you, that if you go back and look at Ronald Reagan, after his first 2 years, things look pretty bad for his reelection. And a lot of people are going, well, it was a good try. You did your tax cuts, but we're in this recession, deep recession they had in the 1981, 82 era, and things weren't really looking up for Ronald Reagan at that point economically. But you know what? His tax cut that he got passed the first year he came in, said this is what I got elected for. He got a Democratic House and basically a Democrat Senate to pass this tax reform by going to the American people, and Ronald Reagan, and they were putting everything on it because they said this is Reagan's economy now, and it didn't look good after his first 2 years. It really did not. But you know what? The tax cuts started working in that second and third year, and of course he just walloped the Democratic nominee Mondale that year, who had been the former vice president under Jimmy Carter. But it took a while for it to kick in. That's unlike what you're hearing right now. The press, and the financial press especially, saying, well, we had a good economy last year because of the tax cuts, but they're gone now. That is the craziest thing I've heard, because the tax cuts keep on giving. It wasn't a tax cut just for 2018. The tax cut really is now just starting ready to percolate throughout the economy. Let's look back at Ronald Reagan's years and what he did with tax cut. It didn't happen immediately. We may have more powerful effects coming up in 2019. Look at the gas prices. They've gone down tremendously. Who's giving Trump the praise? Well, he always gave Obama the praise as the gas prices went down. I don't hear the media talking about low gas prices and Donald Trump's plans, do you? But I'm just saying, do go back and look at history. Ronald Reagan's tax cuts, they didn't kick in immediately. Took a year or two, and then everything started taking off. And the Trump getting rid of the regulations helped goose the economy last year. I believe the tax cuts are just getting ready to kick in. And if we can get some action from the administration side on some more regulation cutting, and we're not going to get a lot of help from the House Democrats in charge of the House, but basically this is what Trump will have to do, is work through the administration and making corrections wherever he can. But I wanted to play something. Let's get the year started off right. Take a listen to this, and we're going to get you some bold predictions for 2019 right here on Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Well, how about that leading in for a prediction of 2019? There's going to be some rocky road to go for Donald Trump. We all know that, because we can just look at the way they've been after him for the first 2 years of his presidency. He's getting into the next 2 years. He has lost the House. The Republicans lost the House, which I told you last week. You know, looking back over it, that's one of the worst things the Republicans did, is allow Speaker Paul Ryan, to stay Speaker when he was going to step down. Wasn't running for re-election. He should have gone ahead and stepped down from the speakership, because he had nothing to lose. He was already going to be out of the speaker's job. So I hope Republicans will learn from that and not do something crazy like that again. But let's go on. And as far as predictions, the House Democrats are going to pass a slew of bills that have no chance of getting anywhere in the Senate. Heck, the House Republicans passed a slew of bills that the Senate Republicans couldn't get through because of the needing 60 votes, 10 votes from Democrats, almost 10 votes from Democrats last time. So we aren't going to see a lot of legislation moving forward with the House and Senate putting things together and the president signing it. It's not going to happen very much, because Nancy Pelosi loves the Democratic thirst for power. They want power more than they want America to succeed. If Donald Trump gets credit, we're seeing, just like here, the shutdown, it's foreshadowing of what's to come, because the Democrats are so enraged that they lost power. They still cannot believe Donald Trump was elected by the American people, and he is our constitutional president, And now they will do all possible, everything, throw in more than the kitchen sink at President Trump, and they will not get any legislation through. They may name some buildings, do some simple things, but not much is going to get through in the next 2 years because the House will refuse to work with the president. Now, what that's going to set up, this is happening in 2019, along with at least 20 Democrats thinking about running for the Democratic nomination. You remember, this is going to be going on, so they are going to be introducing legislation and doing things that will be counterproductive for trying to work with Republicans. So, therefore, don't expect any new changes. And, of course, the good thing about the House Democrats, they can't unchange what Donald Trump and Republicans did the first 2 years, which is a lot of things. They didn't get rid of Obamacare. And that's the one thing about Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics, our health care plan that we're still remodifying now to get it up to speed 2019. It should be good for Democrats and Republicans. It takes the best of some things and uses blockchain technology, which we've talked about before. And when we do our health care presentation, we'll go more in detail on that. But let me just tell you that we're not going to see much coming out of the House. That's really not a bold prediction. It's just going to tell you that. And the Senate's going to be where some rocket fires going on in committee hearings, because you got so many people in the Senate looking at running for the presidency on the Democratic side, includes Sherrod Brown of Ohio. You got Harris out of California, Senator Harris, to Senator Cory Booker out of New Jersey. And, that's not... the list is not limited to those in the Senate. It's going to be could be a hostile environment between the Democrats, jockeying for free press coverage. As much as they hate Trump, nobody's going to get as much press as Donald Trump did during the primary time of 2016. I mean, the press just gave everything they could to him, and that's one reason he ended up getting elected. But you got to remember, back in 2016, the reason they gave him so much press is the press wanted him, and Hillary Clinton wanted him to be the Republican nominee. They wanted Donald Trump. I mean, the press knew it. Hillary Clinton knew it. They had the Access Hollywood tape just sitting there. They did not use it during the primaries. They wanted Trump to win the nomination, and then they would knock him out with the Access Hollywood tape, with all other things, and just knock him out and cold, and the election be over, and she'd waltz into the White House. But you know what? Donald Trump, he won the election, and the press couldn't believe it. And I think some of the top dogs, the press, I mean, NBC sat on that Access Hollywood tape knowing they had it all the time. And I bet you others knew it was out there. And they said no. You remember we talked about this. They didn't do it. They didn't open it up in the primaries because they wanted Donald Trump to win the Republican primary. And then they thought there's no way he could ever win the general election, especially when they had to Access Hollywood tape. And they waited and waited just before the second debate. And why? Because the ballots had already been printed. They wanted Donald Trump to be so embarrassed that he would quit the nomination. His name would be on the ballot, and people would have to vote for him. He would resign in shame. And yet, all this planned out, and it didn't work out the way the Democrats had planned it. And therefore, they had the insurance policy of Peter Strzok and James Comey and all those involved in making this Russia hoax even before the election was over with. But we're not going to go chase that rabbit, but I'm just telling you that's why we won't get a whole lot done with the Democratic House and Republican Senate and Donald Trump in the White House as far as new legislation. But let me remind you, you're listening to Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics right here on webtalkradio.net. We are talking about predictions, bold predictions, shaking America. We can shake America to the core if the American people will unite behind solid principles. And that's what we do right here at Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. Constitutional principles, that's what we want to stand on. And we got a book I wrote with Dr. Alveda King and Dr. Alex McFarland, and the book is called Bedrock Truths. If you don't have a copy of that, you can click on a picture of the book right on the front page of this website, Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. It'll take you to www.docholiday.org. That's Holiday of 2 L's in it. But go there. You can order the book, Bedrock Truths, and you can check it out on Amazon if you want to, and you should be able to get it off Amazon. We got other books there, and we are glad to be available for you with this book. And if you got liberal friends, get one for them. They need to read it too. But I do want to say thank you for what you've done in the past. Thank you for listening. Tell your friends and neighbors about Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. We picked up new listeners around the country as we carried the midterm election. So continue listening. We got a lot of things on rock splitting politics. Like I said, we're gonna have some bold shows coming up about how to end racism immediately, and the health care for all, and the immigration reform unlike you've ever seen anywhere else. And we're getting new ideas out there. If you got some ideas, email them to me. We'll look through them. If we can integrate them to what we're doing here, we sure will. So feel free. I can't answer all the emails. I'll try to get through every one of them, and you send them in. So please email the show. You can do it right there on the front page of Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics. And let me just tell you that we look to help shake America up. We want to shake. And I have to say that word carefully. Shake America. And that's what Doc Holliday's Rock Splitting Politics is about. That's what Donald Trump has been about, shaking up America. And that's why so many people voted for him, and he got elected president to shake things up, not keep them the same. So every time he does something a little bit, well, I don't know if I'd do it that way, President Trump. He has to do things to shake it up. And I'm glad he's shaking it up. That's what our country voted for him for, and he's doing it. And he won't be 100% perfect. But I'm so glad he's in the presidency. So glad. If I have a bad day and he does something, I think, oh, I wish he hadn't said that. And all I got to do is pinch myself and go, wow, what if Hillary Clinton was president? What a mess we'd be in. Thank God for Donald Trump and his presidency and the way he's shaking things up and making America better. Not only, like I like to say, he's not only making America great again, he's making America the best it's ever been. Let's get behind this president. And if there's something you disagree about, talk about it. But get behind him. Let him know he's got support. And this mainstream media, what a mess they're in. And just they're in this constant hatred syndrome. You know, I think they like to call Trump Mr. Chaos, but it's Mr. President. And right now he's finding the right people. And like they say, personnel is policy. In the first 2 years, he had to sort of find out who fit where in the pieces of the puzzle. He's getting it to work together. So let me give you some more of these bold predictions. What about the stock market? 2018 was not good at all. 2017 was wonderful. But the economy was good. We had the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Lowest unemployment rate ever for African Americans, for Hispanic Americans, and about the lowest ever for women in America. The unemployment rate is so good that we have more jobs available than we have unemployed. And so we got to get people working. And people who haven't been in the workforce, they need to be trained to get back in the workforce. These are good things to have. That doesn't mean we need illegal immigrants coming in. We need legal immigrants in a way that we know who's here and how long they're staying. That's what we need. But we don't need to be having porous borders. So when it comes to immigration reform, and we'll have a special show on that coming up, but one thing you got to remember is we cannot allow thousands of people to come in, and we have been doing it for years. Thousands, tens of thousands every year coming through illegally at the border. We can't allow for it. And if Congress is not going to make new laws, then our president needs to have a backbone, and he's showing that backbone now to say we're going to build a wall and we're going to keep people out unless they come through in the legal way. Even those who come in, and then if they claim asylum, they can't do anything about them until they see a judge, immigration judge, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years. So they just running around, and it said 97% of them never come back when it's time for the judge. What I don't understand about that, we're so backlogged, they said, but if 97% are not coming back, then why can't you just run through? It seems like you should be able to go a lot faster on those cases. But we do need more judges there, and hope we'll get that. Here's a bold prediction. 2019. Well, Kanye West, he got quiet just for the election because he was told to get quiet. You know, he went to the White House and made a big to-do a couple months before the election, and I tell you, he got called all kind of names, and people said they're going to stop buying anything that had Kanye West, and it looked like they got to him. But guess what? First thing in 2019, Kanye West, he tweeted out some things, and he always uses language I would not use. I wish he wouldn't use it, and maybe one day he'll mature enough where he won't have to use such outlandish language. But he did say he was a Trump fan, and he was going to be wearing his Make America Great Again red hat when he's in concert, when he's singing in 2019. And so we are seeing something there. This is my bold prediction. Listen, I believe Donald Trump will be able to reach out into the African American community and actually ask for votes in a way that no Republican has ever done that before. And he is working his hardest to get things, just like I said, the black unemployment rate, the lowest it's ever been, ever recorded in America now. So these are things that I believe with prison reform, he'll have things that he can say. I don't care what the media says. You'll hear all kind of junk, but listen to what Kanye West has to say. Listen to what others like Walter Williams, and we got other black leaders that are getting behind this president. Let me tell you what Walter Williams said. He wrote an article. This is the first thing last week, 2019. It's a new, fresh article. Walter Williams, he's about, I think he said he's 83 now. He's in his mid-80s. And he's talking about different words that have been used for black people over the years, from Negro to colored to African American. But he's talking about the Negro was a word that his teacher made him, if he had it in a book, a little N, he'd the teacher would make him put it a big N in the 1940s, because he says it's a proud word, proud. But he said, he went on to talk about Malcolm X, who many in African American community still emulate and adore. But Malcolm X said this, quote, "The worst enemy that the Negro have is this white man that runs around here drooling at the mouth, professing to love Negroes and calling himself a liberal. And it is following these white liberals that has perpetuated problems that Negroes have. If the Negro wasn't taken, tricked, or deceived by the white liberal, the Negroes would get together and solve our own problems. I only cite these things to show you that in America, the history of the white liberal has been nothing but a series of trickery designed to make Negroes think that the white liberal was going to solve our problems. Our problems will never be solved by the white man." Unquote. Malcolm X said that. Walter Williams was pointing that out. Do you know how many liberal programs, I won't use the word white liberal, but most of them are designed by white liberals. Nowadays, a lot of black liberals working with them too. But how many problems have been solved for our black citizens by the white liberal, or by liberals in general? How many have been solved? How many problems have been solved? Good question. That's why Donald Trump has the potential to really reach into the African American community and say, I'm going to shake things up. This is going to be a shaking change for America if Donald Trump can bring together this change. He got Kanye West already. Can he get others to stand up and say, you know, something's wrong when 90% of African Americans vote Democrat? Are they doing it because they've been mind controlled, or are they thinking for themselves? Kanye West is asking this question. So this is my bold prediction. 2019, we may see a trend that the press would just, I think some of them would almost go jump off the top of a building if they thought Donald Trump was really gaining in the African American community by a lot. If he did, I don't know what some of the press would do. They would be very depressed. But I predict we're going to see some movement in that area before the 2020 elections. Now, another bold prediction. What about talking about stocks in 2017 were good, 2018 they were not good, and we ended the year on a very sour note. But I believe, looking back at history, in the third year of a president, it's been very few times the stock market did not go up. And every time when we've had a correction, almost a bear market, some people almost want to call it a bear market, it came within just a few percentage points on the Dow to be a bear market. But it's a deep correction. But you know what? Most of the time, within the year afterwards, they were talking about when there's been this deep correction, that there's been a 10 to 15 point increase in the next following year, 15 percentage points better. Wow, that would be a good year for the stock market if that happened. History says it probably will. So Doc Holliday is saying, you look at the economy, you look at our low unemployment rate, you look at more people working, you look at the tax cuts that will keep on giving. Remember what I said about Ronald Reagan's first 2 years? Didn't look good, the tax cuts. But then they started kicking in and the economy started growing. So I feel like we are going to have some good growth economy. The only things that can keep it totally knocked out would be the Federal Reserve. They're trying their best to keep America from having a big economic driving engine party. But we'll see. I think America is going to grind ahead in a great way with our economy. And Donald Trump has a lot to do with that, with cutting regulations, cutting taxes, and letting the small businesses take charge in ways they haven't been able to do for years and years and years. So I do look out optimistic about this economy. Sure, things can happen. Sure, there can be something we don't foresee. But right now, I really believe Donald Trump and the Republicans have set forth a economic picture that is going to be very favorable for Americans everywhere, and the Democrats are not going to be able to stop it. They may try, but they don't have the power to get anything passed unless the Looney Tunes in the Republicans somehow work with them. But then, they have to override a Trump veto. So I feel good about where we are, what the Republicans have done. The only part of that I don't like is we didn't get rid of Obamacare, but we did get rid of the mandate, the individual mandate, which, as the judge ruled in Texas, we talked about that, makes really the whole entire Obamacare law unconstitutional. And we'll see. It'll go to court, not anytime quick. But that's why, Doc Holliday, we have our plan right here that I believe that Republicans and Democrats could get behind. So that's I've said it before. That's all I'll say about it now. But it's on to another prediction. What are we going to do about immigration? Oh, my goodness. Immigration. It's a mess, and the Democrats have helped create this mess, and they will not clean up their own mess. They won't. They will not clean it up. So Donald Trump and the administration is going to work with these boneheaded laws, and for a real shift-shaking change on immigration in America, it's going to take the American people speaking out, saying, build that wall, and the press is going to keep doing everything, showing every poll, saying, oh, Americans don't want a wall. Yes, we do. We want a wall. We need a wall. Stay strong, Mr. President. Stay strong, Republicans, and let's make this a winning issue in 2020. Americans want protection from illegal immigrants that come in and kill, maim, through DUIs, through gun violence, through gangs. They're killing American citizens. We see it almost every week, and it's time to put a stop to this illegal immigration. And American people are ready to stand up for that. And I know that we do have, they say 10, 12 million in America that are here here illegally. I think the number is more correct, around 20 or 25 million. Can we deport everybody? No, don't want to, but we got to know who they are, where they are, and we got to have some form of legal residence status that can be renewed after 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. But they cannot have a path to citizenship unless they go back to their home country and do it like everybody else. It'll be unfair to those who are waiting in line for years and years. But we can work with that. We can work with Democrats and get that passed. But if they won't do it, then it's time to find Republicans who can win in 2020 and get Trump reelected and get a coattail that brings in a new House and a new Senate that will work with the president and make sure we get immigration reform in 2020. We're not going to get it in 2019. It'd be about crazy to think you could with the way the Democrats are so just brain dead on this issue. They want voters. That's what they want. They want voters. And if anybody tells you the Democrats are for the poor, it is the craziest thing you ever heard, because they're not for the poor people. They want more poor people. They want more and more and more so they control votes. Republicans want to get all the poor people out of poverty. That is a goal. And it would work better and better if more and more weren't coming in. The Democrats lose when they lose control when there's fewer people in poverty. And that's why they love illegal immigration. They need people in poverty to stay in office. So that's something that I think we'll be able to finally point out in 2019. Bold predictions. We talked about everything from the stock market likely to revive. We talked about immigration reform, health care that needs to be done, health care for all. And we talked about the specter of race, what it plays in America, and the word racism. We're going to talk about that in an upcoming show. But let me just end by saying that we got new technology coming. Some things will come up, like this blockchain technology we've talked about. We're going to have some new technology that we hadn't even talked about in the past. It's going to happen this year. We're going to see it, and it's going to help change people's optimism about America, where we're going, and Donald Trump will be looked at as a leader and an innovator in government. Wow, wouldn't you like to see that? Well, we're going to be around right here in 2019, delivering you rock-splitting politics every week. Listen to us. See you again next week.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember to listen again next week for another edition of Doc Holliday's Rock-Splitting Politics. You can order Ed's new book, Bedrock Truths, by clicking on the book cover right in front of you on the screen, or visit DocHolliday.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.